Hello and welcome to Kelly's Wordy Reactions. Let me just set a couple things on. Set a couple things on the platform. I think that's good. And let's see. All right, so I'll go ahead and get into what I wanted to talk about today. So we've had a busy week in politics. I guess we've had a busy year in politics so far. Um, but yeah, this week has certainly been eventful. So we've had the government shut down as of now. Trying to remember if that happened today or yesterday. Then we've had the Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth meeting with all of the United States generals and admirals. And that was unprecedented and, dare I say, unheard of and unnecessary and uncalled for and so many uns. In my opinion, of course. And then today, we've had President Trump referencing Project 2025, which he, of course, tried to distance himself from, but the people that had read it pretty much knew that he was working off of the Project 2025 playbook. So he, of course, could say he was distancing himself from it, but all of his actions have shown that that's what he's doing the whole entire time. So, hello. Is it Dino Snore Shelley? Hi, thanks for stopping in. So, so let's get on with this, and then I want y'all to hear a meeting. I'm not going to play it because I don't really know if I would get a copyright strike from playing it from that particular platform. Some of the platforms you can say that you are doing commentary, and so therefore you're not subject to the copyright infringement type deals. But some of the platforms, you just really can't play their content. So I'm gonna just do the audio, and I think that'll help me to get around it. But so President Trump referenced Project 2025 today, despite distancing himself from it during his 2024 campaign. And why does this matter? Well, Project 2025 became a political flashpoint during last year's presidential campaign because of its controversial outline for reshaping American life. Project 2025, never an official Trump platform, because of course he swore up and down he didn't have anything to do with it, was built by some Trump allies and echoes moves from the early days of Trump's second presidency, which is this one. Some of Trump's MAGA allies called Project 2025 the next term agenda after Trump's win. So Tuesday, or Trump said Tuesday, he planned to meet with Russ Vought, director of the Office of Management and Budget, to discuss agency cuts amid the government shutdown, which is happening now. Trump identified Vought as, in quotes, of Project 2025 fame, end of quote, in his Truth Social post on the meeting. I can't believe, and this is in quotes too, I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity, he wrote. And when when asked about Trump's mention of Project 2025, White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson didn't directly respond to the question. And I'm reading this from Axios, if you're wondering. All right, so Russ Vought's ties to Project 2025. Well, Vought was a co-architect of the Heritage Foundation's initiative, largely seen as a roadmap for Trump's agenda. And then Vought was vice president of Heritage Action for America, a sister organization to the Heritage Foundation, which produced Project 2025. He wrote a section on the executive office. All right, and then other Trump allies, including Tom Homan, John Ratcliffe, and Pete Hoekstra, also had a role in the plan's development. All right, so that's a little bit of history on all things Project 2025. Let's read this one too. Trump repeatedly distanced himself from the plan during the 2024 election campaign, as Democrats repeatedly linked him to it. And then, in quotes, he said, "I have nothing to do with Project 2025." Trump said during a contentious presidential debate with Kamala Harris last year. In quotes, "That's out there." And this is Donald Trump again. In quotes, "That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it." Does he ever want to read anything? He said, "That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it," he said. And then at a campaign rally in July 2024, Trump called the plan seriously extreme, in quotes, and was conceived by people on the severe right, in quotes. So, all right. So, and then a couple main points of Project 2025, which it's so long, and I don't know if it's even worth mentioning these couple things because it's so much to it. But right here on this Axios article, it just reads, Project 2025 deemed a blueprint for reshaping life for millions of Americans. Proposes massive expansion of executive branch power and control of the federal bureaucracy. Many of Trump's executive orders signed at the start of his presidency echo the project's agenda. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start this hidden camera interview. So let's skip over to that. And so if I remember right, which they're going to explain it as well, but if I remember right, this was two guys that were posing. They met up with Russ Vought, and they were posing as donors, conservative donors from another country. And so they had this meeting with Russ Vought, and I believe they had a meeting with another actor over there in the Project 2025 camp. And so I'll just let them take it from there. But this is a hidden camera interview. Hey there, cross country cruiser. Thanks for stopping in. Um, yeah, I'll let them take it from there. But this was definitely not something that he knew was being. He didn't know at the time that he was being recorded, and so the platform that I'm going to play this from is Democracy Now. So I'll just go ahead and get this started.
We begin today's show with a new undercover video that shows the co-author of Project 2025 bragging about his ties to Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, even as Trump is trying to distance himself from the right-wing blueprint for his potential second term. The video features Russell Vought, who is director of the Trump White House Office of Management and Budget. It shows Vought meeting in a five-star Washington, D.C. hotel with two men he thought were relatives of a wealthy conservative donor. But Vought was actually talking to two undercover reporters with the Center for Climate Reporting, an independent British news outlet. They were secretly recording him. In a minute, one of those reporters will join us. But first, this is the video report accompanying their new investigation. It's called Undercover in Project 2025, the secretive second phase and the radical policies for rollout on day one.
Okay, before I get that started, this this from the video that I'm playing was uploaded to YouTube on August 16th, 2024. So a little bit more than a year, well, more than a year ago at this point. Okay, here we go.
Two undercover reporters posing as donors are about to meet one of the key architects of Project 2025, the radical plan for Trump's second term, in a hotel suite rigged with hidden cameras.
Nice to meet you. Would you like coffee or something? I'd love coffee, yeah.
Meet Russ Vought.
Russell Vought, the former director of the Office of Management and Budget.
He's been called the most dangerous MAGA diehard you've never heard of.
I am opposed to the Department of Education because I think it's the Department of Critical Race Theory.
The Russ Vought were comrades in arms.
Formerly a cabinet member and chief lieutenant in the first Trump admin,
I want to thank Russ for doing an incredible job.
he now runs a group called Center for Renewing America.
An organization that I helped turn into the Death Star that is accomplishing all the debates that you are reading about. I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. You have the largest deportation in history, block funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person that crushes the deep state.
Vought is one of the key authors of the blueprint for a second Trump administration.
Project 2025.
It's an ambitious 920-page blueprint.
Like eliminating the Department of Education, the mass firings of civil servants,
Banning access to the abortion pill and further restricting abortion rights.
In recent weeks, the plans have become so controversial that Trump has been forced to distance himself.
They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right. And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25.
Are you ready? I know nothing about Project 25. I haven't seen the document. I don't intend to really see the document.
But behind closed doors, Vought tells us not to take Trump's disavowal seriously.
I expect to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
He's running against a brand. He is not running against any people.
Okay.
He is not running against any institutions. It's interesting. He's in fact not even opposing himself to a particular policy.
Yeah.
He's been at our organization. He's raised money for our organization. He's blessed it from the, I remember walking into our last day in office and told him what I was going to do. So he's very supportive of what we do.
Our investigation into Project 2025 began 2 weeks before the meeting with Vought. at a conference for religious nationalists in D.C.
The truth is, Christian nationalism is not a threat to American democracy. Christian nationalism founded American democracy.
Journalists from the Center for Climate Reporting have come posing as potential donors, looking to meet those involved in Project 2025. They're not hard to find. The Heritage Foundation, the group running the project, are here. So is Vought's think tank. We make the acquaintance of Mika Meadowcroft, an author on Project 2025 and a close aide to Vought. He tells us that Vought is running the secretive second phase of Project 2025.
The second phase after the book came out was to break down like actual sort of policy packets and executive orders and agenda items, things like that. That's been supervised largely by us.
The first phase of Project 2025 was a 922-page policy book published openly. The second phase is a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency. These much more detailed plans are confidential.
Yeah. Because obviously you wanted a little of it to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process, as possible.
Freedom of Information Act, yeah.
The Freedom of Information Act allows the public to request government communications. But Meadowcroft reveals they plan to avoid these rules.
Yeah, the goal is, familiarize all the transition team people with these plans, but you don't actually, send them to their work emails.
Right.
You could just give the handbooks to everyone, be like, this is the game plan for the admin.
Yeah.
If the press knows that that's what you're doing, then they're going to immediately just say, I request all of your emails from Heritage.
Okay.
You
right.
Worker.
I see.
So we'll see.
Interesting.
Meadowcroft offers to set up a meeting with his boss, Russ Vought.
You could put me in touch with somebody who looks after his diary or whatever.
Yes, I can put you in touch with his schedule. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Great.
So just tell me when to do that.
We want to meet the man writing the game plan for Trump's second administration. Vought believes that in his first term, Trump's agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state. So Vought is planning a radical centralization of government power under the president, firing civil servants and ending the independence of agencies like the FBI and DOJ.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence. They're independent from the president.
Vought has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. Right. We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to rewind that part because there was something that I saw written here on the screen, and I just want to hear what he said again about George Floyd.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence. They're independent from the president.
Vought has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories.
Okay, so this says I think this was written by Rolling Stone. It says, coup plotters, Team Trump's plan, weaponize the Insurrection Act against democracy, warned that there would be riots if they stole the 2020 election. One Trump team member invoked a law that allows the military to be deployed against U.S. civilians. That's happening right now. Okay, so now I want to hear what he said. I wish they had dated this one particular article. But I don't, it's just kind of like flashing on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and play again.
arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration.
Right. George Floyd was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. So I don't know what he means by that. I wish they would have given us more of this actual hidden camera, the whole thing, but it's being narrated. So I did look for it to see if I could find it just in original form, but I haven't been able to find that yet. So okay, I'm gonna play again.
We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with the military, and that's something that it's going to be important for him to remember and his lawyers to affirm. But we've given them the case for that.
With loyalists installed in key government agencies and armed with his playbook, Vought believes a radical Christian nationalist agenda can be realized under a second Trump presidency. For example, on abortion.
So I think the president's actually come up with a strategy that works so long as you are giving people like me in the government the ability to block funding for Planned Parenthood, block funding for fetal tissue research. But what I've told people is he had the most pro-life record ever. I've never seen him take it to stand in the way of a pro-life initiative that actually was real, politically and with momentum.
And for Vought, Trump's pick for vice president shows he's serious about pushing this ideological agenda when in power.
So I am very happy with the JD pick. I think it's transformative for sure. And think of him as a member version of what we do. So there's no think tank, no policy organization, no battle plan creator other than us for the worldview that I think Donald Trump has and that JD has.
But as public backlash against these plans builds, the Trump campaign has been scrambling to distance themselves from Project 2025's authors.
It's complete and utter bullshit for any reporter to write that this is the way it is. The president's made it clear these people do not speak for him. They do not speak for the campaign.
But Vought tells us that behind the scenes, things are much friendlier. The Trump campaign recently picked him to write the Republicans' policy platform, making...
This video is brought to you by...
Oh, no. Hold on. I changed the video.
Making him essentially Project 2025's man.
Okay. I wanted to read what's here on the screen, so I was trying to rewind. Just a second.
But Vought tells us that behind the scenes, things are much friendlier. The Trump campaign recently picked him to write the Republicans' policy platform, making him essentially Project 2025's man on the inside.
I think the best example is the campaign selected me to be the platform because of their views on my policy ideas, and they're not running from all of the negativity that I get from the press.
I see. So they haven't been spooked on you as a person, you don't think?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be their transition pick because then they have all these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
But no, the relationship is great.
The head of the Trump transition team has not yet been appointed. But Vought says that no matter who is named, he'll be able to hand over his Project 2025 battle plans directly.
If it's someone like Stephen Miller or Bob Lighthizer, then all the stuff gets plugged right in. If it's not, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But all of it will be designed for a theory of the case that if a battle plan is out there that will do what he wants, there are the people like me that have his trust that will be able to get it to him in whatever position we're at, or I could be at Center for New America, but the relationships will be there, the trust level will be there.
Project.
So keep in mind, this was August 2024. So from the sound of it, at this point, he didn't even know if he was actually going to be in the cabinet. And or Stephen Miller or whoever that other person was he mentioned. So So Stephen Miller is there. He's even there. So that plugged in word that he used. So they have successfully been able to plug this in, and to the point to where today, at this point, Donald Trump, I guess he's feeling good about the way everything is going, to the point to where now he can actually go ahead and say Project 2025, kind of signaling that, Russ Vought is in place. And, he is one of the main architects of Project 2025. And now that the government shutdown is here, like, I can't believe that the Democrats have allowed me to be in such a great position with me, Russ Vought, and Project 2025. So, how diabolical. All right, let's carry on.
2025's Radical Phase 1 policy book turned into a PR disaster.
The director of Project 2025 has stepped down after facing criticism from both Democrats and the Trump campaign.
But Vought's Phase 2 battle plans, top secret and handed directly to the transition team, remain unburdened by the brand.
And are you going to rebrand that second phase at all?
For what I do, the brand's not important.
And you're not worried that if it has Project 2025 on, he's going to go
no.
And you're not going to publish those?
No.
They go straight to...
Yeah, they're very, very close hold. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. It's been an education.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you very much. You can show us that.
Okay. Turn it back, please.
That's the full video report that accompanies a major new investigation by the Center for Climate Reporting. It's called Undercover in Project 2025, the secretive second phase and the radical policies set for rollout on day one. For more, we're joined by Lawrence Carter, founder and director of the Center for Climate Reporting. He is joining us via audio only from the West Midlands in the UK because he's an undercover journalist and needs to remain anonymous for his work. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Lawrence. If you can start off by talking about the significance of what you found and more on who Vought is and their response.
Hi, Abby. Thanks for having me. I think for us, the investigation really crystallized around the time that you started to see these big disavowals from the Trump campaign from Project 2025. Previously, it kind of seemed like an unspoken kind of collaboration almost, where Trump went to the Heritage Foundation in the month that they launched Project 2025 and seemed to sort of give it his blessing. Obviously, then it became this huge political issue, very unpopular proposals in the big policy book that they produced. And recently you've seen Trump's campaign managers really, as you saw in the film, really aggressively attacking Project 2025. But our kind of hypothesis was that was kind of window dressing, and actually the relationships are there. And so we went undercover, and that is kind of was borne out by our investigation, that there's this secretive second phase of Project 2025. Russ Vought is overseeing a sort of pipeline of 350 detailed blueprints, that's executive orders, secretarial memos, all designed to ensure that this kind of radical agenda that the conservative movement has in the US can be implemented from day one. They want to make sure that the mistakes from the first Trump administration, as they see them, where not much got done, are avoided this time round, and they're really able to sort of upend the way in which the United States is governed. There are some specifically shocking findings of the investigation in terms of the policy proposals that they put forward, and these are kind of things that are in the book, but which, when you kind of speak about them in detail, become kind of all the more important from a kind of public interest perspective. And that's largely around the way in which he talked about the mass deportations that they want to carry out, and which is actually in the GOP platform, which the Trump campaign actually asked Mr. Vought to oversee. So the largest deportation in history, as he calls it, has kind of come from the conservative movement via Project 2025. It is also a key campaign promise of the Trump campaign. And he talked about the deportations, these mass, like millions of people being deported, as a way in which to achieve a goal, which is to end multiculturalism in the United States. We asked him, what's going to happen when there's protests against that.
So, so the deportations are to end multiculturalism in the United States, not to get rid of the criminals, not to get rid of the, worst and most hardened criminals, which we see that. And, people have known that all the time, but to have this man, whoever he is, telling us that the mass deportations are to get rid of multiculturalism in the United States. Then to see the budget that they have, a tremendous budget for ICE. And the facilities that are coming up for ICE detention. What do you say? It's just horrible and diabolical. It really is.
He said, well, we've been preparing kind of legal arguments for bringing in the military to quell protests by US citizens. So those are.
Okay, let's go over that again, because that's where we are right now, with the military being. That's we're at this point in the game plan. I'm going to play that again.
As a way in which to achieve a goal, which is to end multiculturalism in the United States. We asked him, what's going to happen when there's protests against that. And he said, well, we've been preparing kind of legal arguments for bringing in the military to quell protests by US citizens. So those are sort of a few of the findings that we thought were most important. Obviously, overall, you've got this kind of quite radical agenda, and then you've got a man who's very much on the inside of Trump world, who is kind of very adept at getting things done, and kind of has said he can get these plans directly into the hands of Donald Trump.
And why you, a British news organization, the Center for Climate Reporting, why you're so interested in Project 2025, and why you felt, your team felt it was essential to be undercover as you continue to, even you as head of the organization, not wanting to show your face.
We're a global organization. Like, we're registered in the UK, but we've got reporters in New York, Berlin, and London. And this really was part of a project that we've started a few months ago, looking at populist movements around the world. And this investigation actually started by looking at the populist movements in Europe. There's just been some big European elections, and the populist parties in Europe have really kind of come to power and have kind of got much more influence in the European Union at the moment. And so our investigation actually started there. But these are international movements. There's huge transatlantic links. So the leads that we were following from Europe actually led to Washington, D.C. and Project 2025. And it's at that point that the project has become more focused on Project 2025. Now, in terms of the undercover aspect, undercover's got a very long and respected history, actually, including in the US. You can go back to the golden age of investigative journalism with Nellie Bly, who went undercover at a New York sanatorium to expose brutal conditions there. More recently, Shane Bauer from Mother Jones went undercover at a max security prison to expose the conditions there. Even CNN has done undercover reporting in recent years on a brilliant report on people smuggling in Nigeria. sometimes it's the only way to get the story, and that was the case here. You know, they're going to great lengths to keep this aspect of Project 2075 secret. You know, you can see in from Mika Meadowcroft's comments there that they don't want the American public to see what they're doing. That's why they're they're avoiding work emails, for example, in how they intend to distribute these plans. And so sometimes, you know, you could get a whistleblower maybe, but kind of in this case, we felt that going undercover was the only way in which we were going to get this story. And so we weighed up the kind of the public interest arguments in favor of doing so with the kind of, you know, the reasonable expectation of privacy that an individual has. And in this case, we felt that there was an overwhelming public interest in going undercover and kind of revealing the way in which a kind of largely dark money funded network of organizations with kind of quite radical plans that are unpopular if you poll them are seeking to enact that agenda. And why is a climate organization doing all this? Well, you know, the fossil fuel industry is kind of obviously a major focus of investigative organizations like mine that work on climate. But if you look at actually the sort of key threats to much needed kind of action on climate change, the rise of the populist right around the world is just as important in our view. And so that's kind of was the genesis of this project, is to start kind of looking at those movements and the threat that they pose.
I want to get your response to the statement issued Thursday by Russell Vought's nonprofit, the Center for Renewing America, which downplayed your undercover video and said it didn't reveal anything new. Spokesperson Rachel Cawley said, quote, "It would have been easier just to do a Google search to uncover what is already on our website and said in countless national media interviews. But thank you for airing our perfect conversation, emphasizing our policy work is totally separate from the Trump campaign, as we have been saying," she said. Your response, Lawrence Carter.
Yeah, they would say that, wouldn't they? It's clear from the recordings that they are actively seeking to keep this stuff secret. So again, going back to the comments from their research director, Mika Meadowcroft, they don't want people to know what's in these plans. They don't want them to know what they're working on. And so what we found was that they're seeking to keep it secret from the American public ahead of the election. They don't want people to see this before they vote. But crucially, the actual details of how they're going to go about doing these things, you know, we now know that there's 350 documents. Mika Meadowcroft said there's a big stack of them waiting to be handed into transition teams. The other crucial thing that we've kind of established, which is kind of very much not what they're saying publicly, is that there's this very strong relationship with both the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself. You know, Project 2025 has insisted it's separate from the Trump operation. The Trump campaign has disavowed Project 2025. But here we have Russell Vought. He oversaw the GOP platform. He's a former Trump cabinet member. He told us he speaks with Trump regularly. He's writing the party platform for this year's election, whilst at the same time overseeing this kind of pipeline of documents, blueprints for the next administration as part of Project 2025. And that's certainly not something that they would talk about in public. So, yeah.
Very interesting that Kevin Roberts, the head of the Heritage Foundation, has this new book coming out, Dawn's Early Light, Taking Back Washington to Save America, with a foreword by none other than President Trump's vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance. Politico writes, J.D. Vance, the Republican vice presidential nominee, has written the foreword to the forthcoming book. In March, Roberts told Politico Senator Vance was, quote, absolutely going to be one of the leaders, if not the leader, of our movement. After Vance was named as Trump's running mate, Roberts said the Heritage Foundation had been privately, quote, really rooting for him to be the pick, even though Trump's campaign, of course, has disavowed any connection to Project 2025. Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of also borne out by our conversations with Russell Vought and Mika Meadowcroft. They're very excited about the JD Vance pick, and it's because they see him as one of them. And so, yeah, they've got, Vought's got a very good relationship with Trump. He's got a great relationship with the Trump campaign. He's been actively collaborating with the Trump campaign on earned media hits, for example, which the Trump campaign sought to convey what a second Trump term would look like. They had Russell Vought speak to the media for them to articulate that, and he spoke to the Time magazine, for example, about his work on Project 2025. So there's those strong relationships already there, but then you have, the JD Vance pick. He's literally one of them as far as they see it, and they're excited about it.
And the views of Project 2025 when it comes to, and Vought's views on abortion, on marriage equality, Lawrence Carter?
Yeah, so again, the findings were that, for example, on abortion, they saw that their goal is ultimately a national ban. But they're pragmatic. Like Russell Vought is a pragmatic member of Project 2025, and he sees that, in his words, that would mean electoral annihilation for Trump if he committed to that. So actually, their strategy is to kind of go after abortion by kind of more executive powers, like, for example, if he was reappointed to the Office for Management and Budget, blocking that funding for Planned Parenthood. Again, he talked about marriage equality in terms of this is kind of a fight that we need to start having, but it's one that they're further behind in compared to abortion. But the goal, again, is to kind of end marriage equality. Similarly, kind of they're pursuing various strategies to try and ban pornography. So yeah, it's quite a kind of radical agenda from a kind of social conservatism point of view, but Russell Vought is certainly on the end of the spectrum of kind of what is politically possible, rather than kind of, I guess, the more Heritage Foundation approach, which is kind of more absolutist.
Lawrence Carter, I want to thank you for being with us, founder and director of the Center for Climate Reporting. We'll link to your new investigation, Undercover in Project 2025, the secretive second phase and the radical policies set for rollout on day one.
Okay, so that was that. Again, if you want to look at this and be able to see everything that's going on, you can look at it on Democracy Now! Here on YouTube. And let's see, the title is Project 2025, Co-author lays out radical agenda for next Trump term in undercover video. So we are in the term right now. This was uploaded in August of 2024. So we're here with, now as of today, Donald Trump saying that, he's, since the government is closed down or shut down at this point, he brought up Russ Vought and that, they were going to meet and, they're going to start looking at things that they can start taking away. I think sort of the verbiage that he used was that, these things would be taken away, shut down, or something of that nature, kind of like permanently. And he's doing all this so that the Democrats can make the deal that he wants made, which is going to make everybody, or I don't know if everybody's, but basically is going to make health insurance skyrocket. So in order for the Democrat Party to, try to hold out until they agree to subsidies that will help insurance costs. We had to go into this shutdown because the Trump administration, of course, does not want to give those subsidies. And they are, saying all sorts of things that they can say to try to make the Democrat Party look ridiculous, that they want to give, what is it, illegal immigrants insurance. I don't know. Just ridiculous things that aren't on the table, but for the purpose of propaganda, they pretty much say anything. So, all right, if you're here and you've been here and you heard that hidden camera meeting, if you heard the hidden camera meeting, do you have any thoughts? Or does this, seem to be lining up for you? Are you understanding that we are being worked over by Project 2025? Or do you think this is just, wonderful magadom? What do you think? And then also, I would kind of like to get feedback on what anybody thought about the meeting of the generals and the admirals with Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump. Did anybody see that? I think people may be coming in and out, so you might not be you might not have been here for part of the what was it, the audio. So if you're interested and you weren't here for it, you can just slide back and listen to the audio that I just played. Again, it was from a YouTube channel called Democracy Now! And I played the video from about a year ago, before Donald Trump was elected. And it was Project 2025 co-author lays out radical agenda for next Trump term in undercover video. So, all right. So if I don't have any chatters, I will go ahead and say good night. I actually remembered this video. I might have even played it on here another time. I feel like I did. I was going into some Project 2025 stuff a while ago. And so I might have actually played this on here before, but I didn't remember if I'd had or not. So I wanted to play it again because it's very relevant at this point, now that Donald Trump did go ahead and call it out, which, everybody knew anyway that Vought was connected to the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. And so it should have been clear. I just don't know that he had ever acknowledged it, since he tried so much to distance himself from it when he started to get called out on it before he was elected. So he, of course, started to get that backlash and started to back away from it. But now that he, I don't know, potentially the government is shut down and he's had the meeting with the military. And so I would imagine that he is feeling like he's in a good position to just go ahead and say whatever he wants to say now. So yeah. Anyway, did anybody have anything to add to this discussion? So if not, I will go ahead and say good night. And I want to thank everybody for stopping in. And when I have something else to bring you, I'll be back. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.